Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grue Room. And for the Grue Room today, we got a very good episode, and we got a musician, a punk rocker, and he does acoustic songs too now. His name is Joey LaRocca, known also as Joey Briggs, and he is part of the band called the Briggs. And we're going to talk about this film that's out about about the band, the Briggs, and it's called Gridlock. And we're going to ask him about the film and about getting started in the business. And I am Rocco Cross. I am the host at Stutters. I am the host of the Guru. And my interview with Joey Briggs is coming up next. Okay, welcome to Grue, and thanks so much for taking time out of your night and coming on the show.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Like the first thing I wanted to ask you is what drew you into wanting to make music and write songs?
I guess I always grew up in a bit of a music orientated family, not necessarily musicians, but just real lovers of music. My parents were big music fans. They had a really extensive record collection of and of a lot of classic rock stuff. And so that's kind of where my brother and I got into music was through them.
Oh wow.
And also like the 80s was like my parents were super into all the soundtracks. There were so many
Oh
soundtracks in
my
the
God,
80s.
yes.
Like they're like epic soundtracks. And so we listened to a lot of soundtracks if we weren't listening to like the Beatles or Led Zeppelin and stuff. But yeah, so we kind of got into music pretty early on uh in terms of listeners, and then around the time I was like 9 or 10 and my brother was 12 or so, my parents bought us both guitars.
Oh wow.
And just something we got over at Guitar Center or whatever. And my brother took to it really well, and he actually got lessons and became really good. And I was like, I wasn't really that into the guitar, so I wound up actually playing drums. And then I got really into doing that. And so the two of us kind of started a lot of bands, me on drums, him on guitar. And that was sort of where we got our start doing stuff. And we did a bunch of different bands, through our teenagehood, that with that dynamic. In fact, the band that kind of preluded was the prelude to the Briggs was I Decline, and that band I started on the drums, and then we morphed into being the front guy because I was singing and drumming, which doesn't always work so well.
Okay. Uh, you were saying like how sound the tracks, like one movie I love the songs on it is Blood Sport. Remember that movie?
Oh yeah,
I
totally.
I remember when that movie came out and they had all the songs for the movie. I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder about that. Like, I wonder, like, it seems so. It seemed like such a pinnacle or an important part of a film was like this perfect soundtrack of just like
Yes.
all this collection of songs that were just so, and then I wonder, like, what came first? Was it the fact that these songs were really good, so then you kind of you associate them with the movie, or did they get popular because the movie was popular and that's what kind of made the songs? It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe it worked both ways in different instances, but yeah, because like we obviously, like the real obvious ones like Flashdance and
Yes.
Footloose,
Mm.
Cocktail. My parents were super into the one. Just that one's a little more obscure. Was the Big Easy,
Oh
and that
yeah,
was all
yeah.
like because it was all like New Orleans style and things, and that was cool. But yeah, Yeah, dude. I mean, it's cool. It was a lot of great stuff. And then Stand By Me had a great one too, because it
Oh
was
my
all
God, yeah.
of that time. So it's pretty rad.
So like who were some of the bands or singers that inspired you to do music?
Well, I was always growing up a really big Beatles fan. So Beatles were a big influence of mine, in terms of songs and songwriting and vocals and things too. But and then I guess Led Zeppelin was always a big influence. Um, I never really was necessarily drawn per se to vocalists. I was
Mm,
more drawn to like drummers. John Bonham was always one of my favorite drummers, just because,
nice.
and that's his style was always just so amazing to me. It was so solid, and it was just like his fills were so great. It wasn't the most you know intricate or perfect, but it had a fucking groove to it that was just so good.
Yeah. And like how how did the Briggs wind up forming?
How did we wind up forming?
Yeah.
Well, the my brother and I had done a bunch of different bands, and this was no different in terms of that dynamic. It was the two of us. Prior to that, though, we took it really seriously, even though we were young and we were just teenagers, and a lot of people we would be in bands with didn't take it as seriously as we did. Like we were like, no, we want to do this, and they're like, yeah, whatever. But people, they do this, they do that, and they don't
Mhm.
really necessarily stick with it. And then also there was just a lot of like, you wind up in a band. A lot of the time, you start a band or join a band with dudes because they're really good musicians or whatever, or you find someone, oh, he's really good, but maybe not like the most the easiest person to get along with, or maybe that person's a dick or whatever. So what a slightly different take on this band in terms of the forming of it was, we decided to form a band with one of our really good friends.
Oh,
He wasn't even
nice.
a very good musician, sorry, but he knows that. He'll even say, in terms of when he started, he didn't really play bass. Like he wasn't really a bass player, he's kind of a guitar player. And but so when we formed the band, it was more just like, we like each other, we're going to be able to like hang out with each other,
Mhm.
do a lot of stuff together because we get along. So it's gonna go better, even though maybe it's not like we didn't find like a monster bass player or something. It was just, we did it more for the friendship versus
Yeah.
the technical expertise. And it did work really well. It worked really well with the three of us until we brought in uh the drummer when I was coming up to the front, which was also a really close friend of mine. So we had a very good dynamic in terms of friendship, and we got along really super well. Um, but our first bass player, Matthew, who was he left shortly after, once we started to kind of tour and do like the real nitty
Uh,
gritty stuff, because that was at the time just not, like, it was just overwhelming. It was just too much for him to be gone a lot and be like on the road. Um, because it all happened kind of fast. It was like we were, just a local band playing gigs on the weekends and playing around and doing little regional things, going to Arizona for a weekend or going up north to Northern California or something. But once we started like doing the full thing, and then it was like tour after tour after tour
mhm.
after tour, like I got to bow out, and so then we went through a series of different bass players for a while,
Oh, wow, really?
throughout the career, really. But the it took a while to land on someone that we were able to stick with for a minute, because one guy came in and then didn't really work out, or one guy maybe is just like, yeah, you know what, I have a job that I make money at, and I'm not making any money on the road with you guys. So have fun with that, with your career path, and I'll take mine, you know. So it took about, I think, maybe like 4 or 5 dudes before we had like a guy that was in the band for the longest period of time.
Oh wow,
His name,
okay. Damn. Like the one thing I feel like for band is
Mhm.
everyone gets along with one another, because you hear all these stories like these big bands, and they'll be touring for a while, then they get on one another's nerves, and they wind up, someone leaves and the band breaks up, and then like years later they'll come back and feud again. And it's like always good when a band is actually friends or getting along with one another. It causes less drama, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like there's a few different, you know, the circumstances of that could be so many different, you know, that could depend on so many things too, you know. I mean, I think that the career of a band could easily create its own, you know, its own drama, or you know, contentiousness, you know, based on the things that happen in the dynamic of business and things with bands, you know, when it comes to uh managers getting involved, and then you get this but this person doesn't get that, and all that. And so those things can always cause issues. Maybe some, you know, sometimes people just get stuck with people they didn't like in the first place, just because things took off, and there's something, you know, and the dudes that are so important to the dynamic of it, and they can't stand each other, you know. um but yeah, I definitely feel, I do feel some remorse for that, because that is a really rough situation to be in. Even one of my dear friends had that circumstance for sure,
Oh
where he
wow.
was in a band with a dude that, you know, but the dude was the singer, and he was like, you know, you couldn't get rid of the guy, but he's a total fuck up and a total mess. And you know,
Hmm.
that is a really tough thing to deal with. So yeah, luckily I'm always the asshole, so you know, I don't have to worry about it. It's other people's problem.
Okay, yeah, that's always good. That's the benefits of being the front man of the band. Like, you're the guy in front on the stage. You're the one getting everyone to look at you. So, you know, you're the guy in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I try to get along. I mean, you know, I've also learned from my own mistakes in that regard, for sure. And like, you know, when I had reflected on that, over the years, seeing just kind of how my own treatment of other people, and how I got along with people, um and definitely tried to improve that over the years, in terms of like, if I'm gonna, you know, give people their space, and let people kind of be themselves, especially on the road, because it's really hard to it's already hard enough to exist without, on the road, without someone like breathing down your neck and trying to tell you what to do. So as much as possible, it's always good to just kind of give people their space, and give people their, you know, their own responsibility to themselves, but within reason. Obviously, they have to still, as long as they're doing their job, you know, and they're
Yeah.
not like totally going off the rails or something. But I luckily haven't really had much of that experience where anyone was, you know, totally out of control or anything.
Okay. And what do you love most about touring, about being on the road, touring different cities?
I mean, I've always been a big fan of traveling, even from a young age. My parents actually took us on a couple of cross country trips.
Oh,
My parents
nice.
my, my parents were from New York, so and you know, I've lived in LA my whole life, so we would go to New York every summer, and we went, so 2 of those years we actually drove there,
Okay.
and which and that kind of sparked it for me. That showed me that I was like, oh, this is dope. Like, I actually really liked not just seeing things, but I actually just liked the perspective of kind of seeing the distance between things and how far things were apart, and just all the vast nothingness that existed in the country. I always found really, really interesting. So I love traveling in general. I like being on the road. I like being, I don't like being in one place for very long.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me feel more alive. It makes me feel more alert to be constantly seeing something that my eyes have not seen before. So, and then also just I enjoy making friends in other places and then getting to see those people. It's fun and exciting to, start to see the same faces and same friends in different places. And we stay at a lot of different people's houses and stuff like that. And it's always cool to have the opportunity to kind of have these little micro families all around the place, people that and can hang out with.
Definitely, yeah. That definitely sounds like fun, like going, traveling somewhere and you have friends and you could go stay with them, crash at their place. Like that does sound fun instead of putting
Yeah,
out money every time for hotel rooms and all that stuff or
yeah, exactly,
Airbnb.
definitely.
And is there a song you love doing live? Like some singers like have that one song that they know the crowd is gonna sing to.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between the, to be honest. So like there's the songs where people are gonna go ape shit for, like
Yeah,
for us, obviously, This Is LA is our one of our more popular songs. So that's always fun in terms of the crowd response. But in terms of that being, I wouldn't say that's my favorite song to play, just because it's the most, I don't know, I guess the song you play the most. So
mhm.
for me, it's always fun when we throw something in there that we haven't played very much at all, because that's more exciting to play. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So
exactly.
like there's like a track off of Come On You Madmen that This Is LA is on. It's called Until Someone Gets Hurt. And I love playing that song because we never play that song. And it's a great song. It's my brother's song. And I like the song, like the vibe of it. And again, it's fresh because it's like, ooh, it's like playing a new song because it's not something we do all the time.
Yeah.
That and then always covers are always fun because those are just sort of generally cherry picked from like our tastes, so it's like, well, we love this song, so obviously it's a really fun song to play, otherwise why would we do it, so covers are always fun, and kind of like more obscure songs from records are my favorite ones to play.
Okay, sweet. And is there any band that you would love to be on the same bill with, like any band you haven't played with yet?
um That's a really good question. I suppose, the first name that comes to mind, I guess, would be Against Me. We never toured with them. Well, I mean, we were on work tour together, so we met there um uh and whatnot, but we'd never actually been on a tour together. We almost did uh many years ago. We got offered to do a tour with them and Dropkick in Europe, but we had already agreed to another tour, and we were really bummed that we missed out on that because I'm sure it was a phenomenal tour. But yeah, that would be my choice.
Okay, okay. And how did how did you wind up working with James Barry for the documentary that's out now, Gridlock?
Yes, yeah. So Kevin and I, he was a fan. We met in Boston at a show, at a Briggs show, at the Middle East, and they and he was a filmmaker, and it started out him asking if he could use a song for a film that he did. He hit me up about that, and I was like, yeah, sure, sounds good. And then he wound up moving to LA, and then when he moved to LA, we kind of linked back up, and since he was a film guy, we were like, oh, why don't we do a music video together and this and that. So he did some music videos for the band.
Oh, nice.
And we kind of became friends and hung out here and there. And then anytime really, like anytime we had stuff, because he had that sort of that director vibe to him, that anytime we were doing anything in the studio or doing anything along those lines, I'd just say, hey, you want to be a fly in the wall and just kind of capture some stuff. So that's sort of what happened a lot, like over the years, since like probably 2012 or 2013. He's just been filming random stuff,
Oh,
random
wow.
stuff like that for the band. So some of the interviews inside the doc are actually from like years ago, which is cool too, because it really shows you kind of get to see an interesting perspective, because it's really it's a very deep documentary. It wasn't just like a couple of weeks on the road. It was
Yeah.
like the story is a little bit more involved. So but yeah, so some of the stuff that we shot was from way back in the day. And over the years, I mean, man, I wouldn't even really know. I'd have to ask him in terms of how many hours of footage he has of the band, because
Oh,
he's
wow.
done a lot of stuff with us. He's definitely been around for a long time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And for the film gridlock, like I was looking at it, reading about it too, and it's 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 about him like following you guys on the road.
Yeah.
You're on tour, and
Yeah.
they're filming you while you're on tour, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the main gist of it. So like, because when he started because he had an idea that he would maybe eventually kind of make a documentary about the band or something like that or
Hmm.
whatever, but he never really had like necessarily a direction to go with it. He was just sort of capturing a lot of stuff and then kind of seeing if it would sort of work itself out at some point. And then we went on this tour, and I was like, I thought it would actually be a really cool idea, because it was like it was kind of a shorter tour. Um, so I thought it would be a good like amount of time to have someone filming you. I feel like if it was like a super long tour and you had someone filming you, I think it would just get a little too much. So I was like, hey, do you want to come on the road with us for a few weeks and do this? And he jumped at the opportunity. And yeah, so we got so then that sort of became the focal point of it. That sort of just became like, hey, this is a day in the life of this band on tour, and then there's all this sort of more in-depth conversation going on, and like a little bit more heavy life stuff happening at the same time. But that was sort of the main idea, was just sort of capturing a day in the life of just driving around in a van and
Hmm.
making stops at different random places, and what you do to kill time during the day before you have to get to a gig, and days off, and people's houses you stay at, and all that kind of stuff. So it has a lot of fun elements in that respect, where it's just like that stuff is funny and fun and just like sometimes silly, sometimes drunken rambling bullshit. but but then there's also like a little bit more of a serious undertone to it, where because it's also guys with families and sort of just finding what's going on in their lives, and how to deal with everything, and how to deal with being a musician. And so yeah, so it's kind of cool. It has lots of deep good ups and downs. And I feel like I can say I can judge the film objectively because I didn't make the film. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I so happen to be in it. But I definitely, when I watched it for the first time, I did think I found it really entertaining just because it's to me at least, and I think that a lot of other people would agree. It's just fun to see that glimpse into people's lives. I mean, that's why even like TikTok is so
Mhm.
interesting, because you get to see like a crane operator, and he's just filming him on his job site, or someone that works at like a convenience store, or someone that works at Walmart. And it's just interesting to get a little bit of a glimpse into people's lives, and
Oh,
just to kind
definitely.
of get a little bit, you get to kind of just see like from their perspective what the world looks like. And I think that I find it fascinating, and I think a lot of other people do too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like with a TikTok, like I have to stay away from that. Like soon as I go to watch one video, like an hour or two later, I'm looking at multiple things.
Totally. Totally. Yeah,
Eh,
definitely.
you can't like stop looking at it once you start.
I know that algorithm is fucking good, man.
It
They know
really,
what you like.
I know exactly. And I saw you just did a brand new CD, like album, and you
Yeah.
can stream it, and tell us about that and how the album came about, what inspired you to write it.
Yeah. So the the when the pandemic hit, my one of my main goals, like right off the bat, was that I wanted to be super productive and do a lot of things that I felt I would be very proud of, versus just kind of being like, wow, what a waste of time. And also, especially in high, looking back at the time, it didn't. I wasn't expecting it to obviously be this long.
Yeah.
We thought this would be for way long ago, but I was like, oh, these next few months, I'm going to be really productive, and I'm going to put out a bunch of music. So I started a few different projects
Mhm.
with some friends of mine. Like, I have a great band together with my buddy Greg Camp, called Back Alley Lecture. And I started like a hardcore punk band called Vintage War with some other buddies.
Oh wow.
And um, and then so I had these different things going on, and I've always had my solo thing for, like, I don't know, the last 12, 13 years. And I hadn't actually put out like a proper record in a really
Mhm.
long it's since, like, man, I don't know, a long time. And so in the depths of all this, I was writing tons of stuff, and I was like, why am I want to apply the same sort of spontaneity to what I did with like Vintage War and Back Alley Lecture, where we wrote stuff, recorded it, and put it out, wrote stuff, recorded it, put it out. Like, there's not a lot of barriers to entry at this point, obviously, that you can do a lot in terms of putting out music and things. So I had these songs, and it was all very pertinent to what's going on. Like, it's all very specifically related to what's going on. So I was like, that to me also um is is a benefit to that quick turnaround of write a song, record, or write some songs and record them and put them out. So it is extremely relevant. It speaks specifically to the time. It speaks specifically to what's occurring in our lives, so people can very much relate to the sentiment, because it's not outdated by 2 years or something. So anyways, that so yeah, so I think I made a little video, like, I think in like November or something, where I just said, yo, I've got a collection of songs I'm gonna write, I'm writing, and I'm gonna put them out. So so I did. So I just recorded a bunch of stuff like at my house, and then I got some buddies together to play some other instruments
Oh,
and
nice.
some backup vocals and things like that. And I didn't have a specific timeline. It was more just like when I get it done. But I was obviously motivated to have it be a completed product. I don't want it to just sit around forever,
Yeah.
but it was kind of still like, I wasn't so stressed about time where like, I'd listen to it and go, I'd really like to add some other shit to it, or I'd really like to have this person play on it and things. So then I could still spend another week doing that versus having the regret that I didn't have the time to do those things. So so it was just sort of a fun project that I put together in just the last couple of months, and yeah, I'm very proud of it. And it's fun to write new music and have new music to listen to of your own, because it gets really boring to hear myself sing the same songs. Whereas like, now there's new fresh things to say. And so that's always a huge benefit to making new music.
Oh, definitely. Like I was listening to some of the songs, and one of the songs I really like is Left for Dead.
Nice.
Yeah. Is is there any song like on your current out
The current album.
album out?
Mhm.
Like, is there any song on here that you're looking forward to doing live?
Absolutely. Most of them, to be honest, but I Fairweather Friends, which is I think the fourth track on the record, is really fun to play. And I actually did a little like just at home video of singing the song, and I was like, ooh, this will be really fun to play, especially when I get some guys together, because I've gone through different phases of doing the solo thing, where sometimes I do it with like a group of dudes, sometimes I just do it on my own with like kicking on a kick drum, and then sometimes just straight up acoustic. But I think that these songs would lend themselves really well to having some guys together, and it being more of a project and a bit in like a group versus just one guy with a guitar, which I've honestly, to be perfectly honest, grown extremely dead bored of. You know what I mean? Like, and there's some people can really pull it off. Some people do a great job of it. I personally don't think I do a great job of it. Like, I'm kind of like, I think I do better in a group setting than I do just fully carrying this on my own. And part of that has to do with not even necessarily the songs, but I'm not a good banterer. And I don't really like doing a lot of like stage banter. Some people are fucking great at that. Like Billy Bragg is one of my favorite. I love him to get to death musically as well. But I mean, I almost want him not to play songs, and I just want to hear him talk in between songs because it's just so entertaining. And so when you're that good, that you could be playing a song or not playing a song, and people are going to be just as engaged and excited to hear it, then that's great. I've just never been that guy. I should maybe do.
Oh. Hey,
back at it.
Okay. I was wondering what happened.
Anyways. Oh, I don't know where the last you heard, so I was probably rambling for a long time. Doesn't matter. Anyways, point being is I'm not. Some people are awesome with their stage banter. It's not my strong suit. Sometimes I literally just sit up there and like there's just dead silence, and it's really uncomfortable. But I don't know how to break the silence because I'm like, what am I gonna say? So, anyways, I just like playing songs. And then if I have other guys on stage, I feel less naked. I feel a little less like alone. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think in moving forward, some of the shows that we do will be not just me.
Okay, okay, cool. And I I read, like, I saw on your page, like, you're vegan. Like, how long have you been vegan for?
Um, it's been, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
Mainly I love cooking vegan food. That's actually because I cook. That's what I like to do.
Oh, nice.
That's like my pastime, and I like the creativity of it. I just like it's fun to just think of creative ways of making food that are just less traditional, and I love vegetables. I love like pretty much every vegetable under the sun and stars. So
Nice.
yeah, that's it's been a fun uh creation for myself that I just enjoy making up new recipes and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
what vegan dish do you love most? Like, what dish do you love to cook?
Um, I love making different variations of chili.
Oh, nice.
Particularly sweet potato chili is one of my favorite ones to make. Um, and man, there's so many different things. What was something else that I made recently that was really awesome? There's this great lasagna that I also made recently with like a white sauce. So it's like a ricotta cheese made with
Nice.
like that I just blend up a bunch of cauliflower and to make the cheese with, and it's really to die for. It's awesome.
Oh my God, that sounds really good.
I know, I'm starting to get hungry now.
Right, exactly. And like, are you a big television guy? Like, is there any shows you like to binge watch?
Well, funny enough, I would say I'm not a TV guy because I actually don't even own a TV, but um but that's not fair to say because now we watch a lot of stuff on our phones. So
Okay.
I do watch a few things. I'm really into Billions. I
Yeah.
love that show. And I pretty much have run the gamut of a lot of different ones. I'm trying to think of something else that I watched recently that was really good. Right now though, because Billions was like on hiatus, it just came back. It's on the fourth episode, but in the interim, I was finding a lot of different random things. I got super into it was called 90s Deadliest, which it's a true crime show
Oh,
that's
okay.
just got some of the most fucked up murders in the 90s.
Oh,
And
wow.
some of them I've heard of, like some of them is cool because I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. But then it's like a more like a full, episode about it. So you get a lot more information about it. Some of them I had never heard of. But the problem with that is that like I only watch TV to fall asleep. So like I don't usually watch even a full episode of something. I put it on when I lay down, and I probably usually fall asleep within like 20 minutes. But
Okay.
I was watching that every night, and every night I was having the most fucked up nightmares, like
Oh
weird
my
dreams and stuff.
God.
Because I'm watching a show about a dude that got his head kicked in from some guys, or this kid that gets killed by other kids. You're just like, so I was just like, all these really heinous crimes, obviously, because they're, you know, what 30 years ago, and they're the ones that are it has to be really messed up to be on this show
Well,
because
yeah.
they only picked a few of them. So anyway, so yeah, it started to really mess with my head because I was watching it right before I went to bed.
Oh my
But
God.
I do love true crime though. That is one of the things I love because it's kind of it's all part of history, and I love history. So all these things, all these instances that have occurred, even if they're more recent history, it is interesting to see a more in-depth picture of.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And every time I have a guest on, I always ask them this because my show deals a lot with horror movies. Do you like
Yeah.
do you like watching horror films? And if you do, what are some of your favorites?
I'm not a huge horror fan. m- and it's not entirely my fault. I like horror movies, but my wife doesn't, and she just
Okay.
because and it's really annoying because it's not because she's like, no, it's too scary. She's like, I can't stop laughing. Like it just she can't take it seriously, and I like to take it seriously. Like I do like, especially particularly like more paranormal style
Yeah,
movies, because I
exactly.
like things that are way more about like fucked up ghost stories and things like
Hmm.
that more than like monsters and ghouls. But and so like for instance, one of my all-time favorite horror movies is The Changeling.
Oh
And
yeah.
that just and it's kind of an obscure 70s one. And it's so slow and it's so eerie and creepy, and every time if I were to watch that movie, I swear it like brings tears to my eyes because I'm so like terrified, because I like the idea of being in a giant house like that, and it's just in hearing those things is just like that movie really messes with my mind. So yeah, I would say that that's probably one of my faves. But I don't, like I said, I don't watch a lot of them
Yeah.
because I don't have someone to watch them with, and so that therefore I also am not as up on it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I haven't seen a bazillion horror movies. I've only seen a select few that I saw when I was younger, really.
Okay. And what what do you listen to now? Like what's on your playlist now?
I'm currently listening to there's a German band named Annemai Kantereit, which is really good, and I love them. The singer has a really great raspy voice, and I was literally just listening to them a minute ago. And there's I actually just asked some my on my page. I was like, hey, what are you guys listening to? Because I was kind of looking to find some new stuff, and
Okay.
there's a really great band that my friend Johnny is in, called True Intentions, which is really good. What else I've been listening to? I mean, I'm a big Menzingers fan. I love everything they've been putting out except the last one. But let's see what else. Yeah, it's always um I think those are the main things that I've been listening to. And honestly, I've been spending so much time listening back to a lot of shit because I have like so many releases coming out. So I'm listening to a lot of my own things over and over.
There you go. Hey. Is there anything coming up next that you want to push or plug? I mean, I know you got the film and your new the album's out. Like,
Yeah, well, I'm it looks like the Briggs are gonna be playing actually at the Flogging Molly does a St. Patrick's Day show at the Palladium. We did it in 2019 and it was great. We were supposed to do 2020, got canceled obviously. They didn't
mhm.
do it last year. They're doing it again this year. So we did get invited to do that, and it looks like that's gonna happen. So just under a month, if I can, we'll be doing that. So that's cool because it's always fun to get together with the Briggs and do that. And yeah, so got my hardcore punk band Vintage War has a new record coming out next week.
Oh, nice.
My record came out today, and yeah, the Briggs are playing. Lots of fun things happening. The doc is really fun to watch. One cool thing about the doc too, I will say, is just that what one thing that's fun is that you don't have to even be a fan of the band to enjoy it. It's something
Mhm.
that people just enjoy because it's a fun little human story of random dudes. And so even if you don't give a shit about me, you could find it entertaining anyways.
Awesome. And where can fans find you at, like with your pages and social and all that stuff?
I'm Joey Briggs Music on Instagram. And the Briggs is the Briggs LA on Instagram, and then all the socials are just kind of all interconnected from there. Um, but yeah, and yeah, there's so many. And I think Vintage War is Vintage War Band or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah,
Sweet. Well, thanks so much again for doing this. Thanks for taking time out of your
yeah,
night. And
absolutely.
of course, yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I liked it. And definitely have a great night and great weekend.
All right, you too.
Thanks,
See
buddy.
ya.